Nobody should have to choose between taking a day off work due to illness or being able to pay their bills. Just like nobody should have to choose between staying home with COVID-19 symptoms or being able to afford rent or groceries. That's why the government will continue discussions with the provinces without delay on ensuring that as we enter the recovery phase of the pandemic, every worker in Canada who needs it has access to 10 days of paid sick leave a year.
Well, if you listen to that, you might think there are red fingerprints on that, but they're actually orange fingerprints on that idea. It was a big win for the federal NDP today as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau vowed to work with the provinces and territories on a 10-day paid sick leave plan. It's a proposal that NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh has been calling for over the last several weeks, and now he's got it. But how will the government actually follow through on this? This is not federal jurisdiction, it's provincial jurisdiction. The man behind the original pitch joins us now for some details. Mr. Singh, great to see you. Hope you and the family are well. Tell us how you persuaded the Prime Minister. What was the conversation between you and Mr. Trudeau that he referenced today? What did it consist of?
Well, we put out this marker, as you mentioned, several weeks ago. We said to get back to work in order for workers to feel safe, one of the most important things is for workers to have paid sick leave. Secondly, work needs to be safe. And on this, we put that out, and initially we got a no from the government. And as early as Friday of this weekend, we had our House leaders speak, and they still were at an impasse. So yesterday, midday, I had a conversation with the Prime Minister, and I laid out that for us to support working together and moving forward with Parliament, we needed to have a clear commitment on paid sick days for all Canadians. That was, for me, a line in the sand. It was something that they needed to be there. And we talked about, and I said, imagine a scenario where a worker is sick in this pandemic, but has to really make that impossible choice. Do they go to work sick, knowing they might be infecting their colleagues and coworkers, or do they stay at home without paid sick leave, knowing that they're not going to have enough money at the end of the month to pay their bills, their groceries, their rent? So after the conversation, the Prime Minister finally accepted that, yes, he would commit to a paid sick leave for all, and that it would be primarily, the first step would be to use the existing tools we have, CERB, to implement it immediately. And then ultimately, I want to see this as the laying the brick of the foundation of a new national social program so that from now and forever, all Canadians will have access to 10 paid sick days at least.
All right, I want to dig into that in a minute, but just real quick. But this was a quid pro quo deal. You got this, and the Liberals have accepted this, but in return now you are going to support the Liberals' parliamentary hybrid model 4 days a week on the COVID committee, not the normal return of Parliament. Is that it?
Right. So what we had put forward as a proposal, the initial proposal was the government wanted to stick with the 3 days with 2 virtual and 1 physical. We had said that the better way forward is to have 4 days where we have physical and virtual. So people and MPs that are in different provinces, in different jurisdictions, they can actually have their constituents' voices heard in Parliament. We also wanted to have 4 days sitting in the summer so we can hold the government to account over the summer. These were absent in the Conservative government or the Conservative Party's proposal, which was did not include any virtual sitting, so MPs that are further away would not have a voice and their constituents would not have a voice. The Conservatives also didn't include any days over the summer. So it was our proposal to have days over the summer with a hybrid in-person and virtual sitting.
So now let me just get back to the actual proposal on the sick days, because some businesses are stressed out, and I talked to the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses today. They're already facing anxiety about keeping employees on the payroll. They're already broke. They're already tapping in. And then there's some concerns about this is a one-size-fits-all model on sick leave. They need flexibility for the employee and the employer. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say that in the beginning, the situation is very tough for a lot of businesses, for small businesses. So what we're proposing is to immediately get this in place, that the federal government could use and modify existing programs like the CERB, for example, and modify it so that a worker could access paid sick leave through CERB. This is something that would be difficult for businesses right now. Our goal, though, is what Premier Horgan has put out, working with provinces to implement something that will be, for now and forever, paid sick leave as a part of a social program that Canadians can expect. That's our proposal.
Right.
Immediately
but
use
it's not there yet. To be fair,
Yes.
To be fair, you guys put out a press release saying, you know, you got it. I just want to be clear for workers watching. This does not exist yet. You've got to negotiate with the provinces. How fast do you believe this can happen?
Well, it could be immediate. Just to clarify, the CERB could be modified right now, immediately, to allow for workers to apply to it to get paid sick leave. So that's our starting point position, and we've said, and the Prime Minister gave me assurances that we could use the CERB to give that relief to workers right away. And then working with provinces, that'll take some time, but I'm confident that all premiers will get on side with the idea of having paid sick leave for all workers. Already, Premier Horgan has indicated strong support for the idea. Other provinces will come on board. I can't imagine any premier during a pandemic that would not welcome the idea of paid sick leave. It's going to save lives. Imagine workers who are feeling like they have COVID-19 symptoms, but then they don't go to test or stay home because they're worried about not being able to pay the bills. That shouldn't be part of the question that someone has to ask themselves. They should know that they can stay home and have that paid sick leave.
Just real quick, the NDP and the Liberals and the Conservatives are applying for the federal wage subsidy program. The Bloc Québécois leader, Yves-François Blanchet, has said he won't do it. He's strongly against it, as are, by the way, some Conservative candidates. And I just asked the Liberals the same question. Why should Canadians accept $700,000 a year for this to political parties that already can write off donations to their parties? No companies can do that outside of charities. You guys get write-offs there. You guys can write off 50% of your expenses for a federal election, 60% for every candidate. That's worth about, what, $100 million in the last election. Why should Canadians accept that you guys make a rule and now you're supporting your own political parties when you already have a whole basket of subsidies available to you?
Well, the question just came down to, we suffered a massive loss, our party suffered a massive loss in revenue, like many other charitable organizations. Other organizations have faced the same thing. The choice was laying off workers that would have to go on to programs like the CERB or applying for the wage subsidy to keep people employed. For me, the choice is simple. It's important to have workers connected to their jobs. And the whole point of the program is to allow people to get what we are going to do is make sure they get the full top up, so 100% salary, in addition to following all collective agreements. It's important for workers to stay hired.
Okay.
Really no question for me.
And I appreciate that, but a political party is not owed a staff. You guys have to earn it through donations. I mean, most companies have a staff, but why should the taxpayer say, well, you get to keep all those workers? I mean, you have a system that allows you to have workers. It's called the donation system. If you can't get the donations, why do you believe that taxpayers and citizens should give an extra break to parties who make this rule that other companies aren't getting?
If the workers weren't on the wage subsidy program, they'd end up on the CERB. And that, to me, is a difficult choice. I would rather workers stay on the workforce, stay employed. That's the better way to move ahead. That's the whole point of the wage subsidy, to keep people employed in their jobs. Right. Otherwise, they would end up on CERB. I'd rather make sure workers are connected to their employment.
Mr. Singh, I got to leave it there. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, and a big day for the NDP. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.